Chapter 11. The Perfect Coffee Table Book. Although Jessie, Daisy, and Emmy all held their ferns tightly, they didn't fool Miss Elodie one bit. She saw them as plain as day as she stood in her backyard, her garden doors flung wide open, waving her arms like the member of an airport ground crew. She guided the book through the open doors and it landed softly in the middle of her parlor. "Hi ho, cousins, I've been expecting you," said Miss Elodie, laughing merrily as she followed them inside and closed the garden doors firmly behind her. Jessie and Daisy tumbled off the book, rolling into a heap on the soft rug. For a few minutes, as they lay there on the floor, side by side, safe and sound, and visible once again. Eventually, they both sat up and looked around. It was the first time either of them had ever been inside Miss Elodie's house. The inside of her house was a lot like the outside. Flowers everywhere. Flowers on the wallpaper, on the furniture covers, on the little pillows, on the rug, even on the lampshades. The air smelled like flowers too, and it wasn't the kind of fragrance that comes from a spray from one of those candles. It was the smell of real live flowers, all mingled together in one giant bouquet. Not surprisingly, Daisy exclaimed, "I love your house." "Why, thank you, Daisy Flower," said Miss Elodie, as she lifted a floral tablecloth and put it over a big book, which had settled itself between the chintz couch and a pair of chintz-covered armchairs. Their hostess bustled around, making a careful arrangement on top of the cloth. A fan of gardening magazines, a flower-topped candy box, and a flowered vase with flowers in it. In no time at all, the book looked right at home. Miss Elodie stood back and admired her work with a happy sigh. "I've always wanted to have an honest-to-goodness coffee table book, and now I have one, thanks to you three. Would anyone care for tea? I have fairy cakes and lavender icing and apricot ginger tisane." Strange food, Jessie thought, but at this time he was too hungry to refuse. "Sounds great, but then we do have to get home. I promised my mom," said Daisy through a king-size yawn. Miss Elodie bustled over to her cozy kitchen. "Where's Emmy?" Jessie looked around in the sudden panic. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. She was fast asleep on the rug before the fireplace in her sheepdog form. Jessie laughed and pointed at her. "She's completely pooped, Days." Miss Elodie carried the tea tray into the room. She wanted to hear all about the adventure. Between bites of cake, eaten off delicate plates decorated with a pattern of violets and vinyl leaves, and sips of perfume-tasting tisane, brewed from wildflowers and drunk from teacups like little tulips. The cousins filled her in on every detail. "So what's this dragon treasure that's not really a treasure?" Jessie asked. "You'll find out all about it," said Miss Elodie. "When?" said Jessie. "Don't tell us. We know," said Daisy. "When the time is right," the cousins said together. "How did you guess?" said Miss Elodie merrily. "Meanwhile, what about the book?" asked Jessie. "We're dying to find out what's inside it. Can you read it to us?" "Please," Daisy begged. "It would be my pleasure," said Miss Elodie with a twinkle in her eye, "as soon as I figure out how to myself." Over by the fireplace, Emmy woofed in her sleep, her furry legs running as fast as they could carry her, up and away into her dragon dreams. That night, Jessie emailed his parents. "Dear Mom and Dad, the rain stopped and Daisy and I finally got outside. We went searching for treasure and hiked into the deep woods, and guess what? We had an earthquake. 6.9 on the Richter scale, the local weather guy said. We're all fine except that Mrs. Nosybritch's chimney got a big crack in it. Ha! Don't worry. The quake was nothing like the one that from that time in Pakistan. This one was just a little shake-up. Anyway, we've decided to take it easy for a while. Hang out with Emmy. She's learning lots of nifty new tricks. And catch up on some summer reading. There's this great new book we found. It's got a lot of pages, and we can't wait to read it. Love your son in America, Jesse Tiger. And that's the end of our book.